All right, guys, I'm going to have to get up and make me another cup of coffee. Do you know I didn't get not one, guys, I didn't get not one taste of that coffee. I'm serious. They came over here and took the coffee out of my hand and drank it up. You know what I'm saying? That's not right. But people do that to you. That's why you have to hurry up and get your coffee. So anyway, let me go back over here, guys. When we was in chapter 18, uh I didn't finish 18. Moses' father-in-law came, right? And so he began to tell his father-in-law about the goodness of the Lord. So he went out to meet his father-in-law in 7, and he gave him obeisance. He bowed down. My father-in-law, he was grateful to see him. Moses told his father-in-law all the Lord had done unto Pharaoh and unto the Egyptians for the Israel's sake, for the Israelites' sake, and all the travail that had come upon them by the way, and how the Lord delivered them from everything that happened. He began to tell his father-in-law about all these things. And Jethro rejoiced, his father-in-law rejoiced, for all the goodness which the Lord had done to Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who had delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who have delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. They were living in bondage. They were living like they were basically slaves. That's how they were living. They were not being paid fairly for what they was doing. They would spend all their time taking care of other people, not doing anything for themselves, so they were living under bondage. And in 11 it says, Now I know the Lord is greater than all gods, for in the thing wherein they dealt proudly, he was above them. And Jethro and Moses' father-in-law took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. So all the older guys that were there, they came to sit around the table with Jethro. He was old. He was a father-in-law. He was an older guy. So they all came and they took up a sacrifice to give to God, to thank him for his graciousness for helping Moses and the children of Israel. And they all sat around the table and break bread and ate together. And they were discussing this. And so it came to pass, it says, They broke bread, they took sacrifices. It came to pass that on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people. He sat down, and the people stood by Moses from the morning until the evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee for the morning until the evening? And Moses said unto him, into his father-in-law, he said, Because the people come unto me to inquire about God. And when they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, The thing that thou doest is not good. He said, It's not good what you're doing. That's what he said. He said, You will surely wear away, both thou and this people is with thee. For this thing is too heavy for you. Thou art not able to perform it by yourself alone. He said, Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. But thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring that causes unto God. And thou shalt teach them ordinance, laws, and shalt shew them the way wherein they must walk, they must work, and what they may do. And moreover, thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, sat as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness. So his father-in-law told him, he said, You need to put somebody up under you to help you. He said, this is a lot of people for you alone. So what he told him was good. I have such a dry throat. He said, set people up under you to help you with what you're doing. Teach others what you're trying to explain to them. And so he said he would do this. He said, pick men of truth and men of understanding that you can trust. He said, this is too much for you for all of these people in one person. So he's going to put somebody else up under him. You know what I'm saying? Like you have the preacher and the deacons are in charge of something. And the preacher, he said, I'm going to put somebody, he can put some guys up under you that you can talk to them and they can talk to all of these people. And he said, put somebody in between. He said, because you're going to be too tired when you're dealing with this many people alone. And so that's what he's going to do. Okay. It says here in 24, so Moses listened to his father's voice. And he said, I have chosen out of Israel able men, and I have put these men as rulers over the people. He said, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10. So he put men over 50 people, 10 people, 100 people. How many he thought that they could handle. He put the men that he thought what he could trust with confidence over certain amounts of people. Because there was a lot of them out there in the wilderness. Now, in chapter 19, it says grace given up for law. But it's something here I wanted to tell you guys about. What I wanted to tell you guys about was in the book of Numbers. It talks about the children murmuring and complaining. The Lord found a way to stop this. It's in the book of Numbers, but I'm going to tell you about it later. I got to look it up. Because I'm going to tell you something. The reason they was in the wilderness for 40 years, they were not only murmuring, but they were disobedient, despondent. They were not going along with things. And the longer it took them to start doing what they were supposed to do, that's how fast they came out of the wilderness. But as long as they were complaining, despondent, you know, like somebody tell you to do something and you just throw it off and don't want to do it. That's what they were doing. God would tell Moses. And then Moses didn't have enough people to help him train such a large amount of people. He had to get other people in order to get things out that he wanted to do with them, in order to get the laws out of God, what you're supposed to do at what times and things like this. Because see, these was the people that had to be trained because they were up under Pharaoh judgment. And it was unrighteous and it was unfair. And they were just told, do this, do that, do this. And they would just go like a robot automatically and do whatever Pharaoh said or whatever his military men said. But now they are being retrained to think of themselves in a higher standard here. You're going to take your time. You're going to rest on Sunday. 6 days you work. God telling them what he did and that they are to do the same. When God created in Genesis, he worked 6 days. On the seventh day, he didn't work. He said everything is good. And he rested from it. But he didn't wait all the way to the seventh day. He said it's good on the first day. He said this is good. Everything was good on the second day. Oh, this is very good. Oh, this is good. Every day, everything was good every day. And then when he got to the seventh day, he said, I shall rest. This is my rest day. And so when he given them the law of resting on the Sabbath, that's what he did when he created heaven and earth. He created man in his own image, right? So all the laws and the way of life is going to make them higher, make them know who they are. It's going to set them up like this. You're on the plane with God. You're not down here. You're not to be mistreated. You're not to be walked over. You're not to act like you don't care, that you're unconcerned. And so Moses is trying to set a standard, but he tried to do it alone. And his father-in-law said, you got to have some help. So now he's called some people to help him. He said the people have to learn the laws. Now on 19, this is where the 10 Commandments coming in at. Moses going to go up on the hill. The Lord going to write the 10 Commandments with lightning. She going to write it with his finger with lightning on the mantle. Go back down there and tell this to the people. And once they get this commandments here, it's called the mosiac covenant. The commandments is called the mosiac covenant. It's a covenant between God and man. And the covenant is that they are to do these things. He had to put this in place to help Moses. And so, in 19, the 10 Commandments, thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not make unto yourself a graven image, that you should worship and bow down to a graven image. You should not do that. You should not bow down to anything above the earth, beneath the earth, or on the earth. You should not bow down to that. This is number 2. Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. The Lord will not hold you guiltless. You will be guilty if you take his name in vain. Remember to keep the Sabbath holy. Now let me tell you about the Sabbath. He told him, listen to what he told him. He said, 1 through 6, on 7 you rest. He told him on number 6, on day 6, listen to what he told him. He said, I don't want you going to get manna on day 7. I'm not going to bring no manna out there. You're going to save your dinner for the next day. Look at us how we do things. We wait until Sunday to cook. Don't wait until Sunday. Cook your meal on Saturday and put it up and pull it out and heat it up. You should not be cooking I just got to cook a Sunday dinner. Because that's work. Cooking is work. Cooking is work. Cook that dinner on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Just rest on Sunday. Rest if you're able to. Some people work so they can't rest. Okay, in number 4, what did he say? Remember, keep the Sabbath holy. What do you consider for holiness? Do you go to a church? What do you do on a Sunday? Whatever you do, keep it holy. The next one. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days upon the land may be long, which the Lord give you. He give you days. He give you a number. Honor your parents. Next, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. And thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not covet the maid servant, the manservant, nor his ox, nor his car, nor his, whatever you drive or whatever your belongings. They call them oxes and asses back then, but we said car or truck. Don't want anything that your neighbor have. Don't want it. It's not yours. Get your own. And that's the Mosiac covenant right there, chapter 19 and 20. Now the Lord said, tell this to the children of Israel. This is 20 and 22. He said, listen what he said. Yea, have seen, I have talked with you from heaven. He said, you should not make gods of silver or gold. He said, an altar of earth thou shalt make unto me. Make you an altar and sacrifices unto me. He said, sacrifice your burnt offerings and your offerings on the altar. I don't know what's wrong with my throat. I hope I'm not catching a cold. Anyway, he told them how to build this altar of hewn stone. He said, build this altar a certain way. Now, there are other laws here. There's 21 and 22. All of these are laws. We're not going to go over those, okay? We're going to stop with Exodus right there. And Exodus and Leviticus, they're all running about the laws, okay? We're not going to worry about that. Now, in Numbers, let me see what's good in Numbers for us to look over. Hold on. Okay. Numbers is still really going over how they are to worship, about the tabernacle and different things like that. Now, Numbers 15, it says the years of wandering. Look at this. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say to them, when you be come into the land of habitation, which I give unto you, and will make an offering by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering or a sacrifice. So he says, he's going to bring them into a land. He said, when you get there, you're to make an offering unto me for bringing you there. He said, make an offering, because he finally got you to that place you wanted to go. And then he tell him what kind of offering he want. They would offer flour, wine, wheat. They would offer different things because they didn't have, like we have money. They didn't have that. Okay. So when they get into where they're going, they're to make an offering. He tells them the kinds of offerings and things like that. Deuteronomy deals with warfare, terror, the laws of warfare, the laws of terror, the law of separation, the law of brotherhood, domestic regulations. And then you get all the way after that, you go all the way into the kings. You go into David, you go into different kings, Solomon. Okay, so we're going to just stop right here. The main thing I wanted you to see was the children of Israel was in the wilderness 40 years because they was ungrateful. They was not listening to the Lord. They were so ungrateful. They had, you know what I'm saying? Moses was explaining to his father-in-law. Him and a bunch of the old guys sat around the table and they talked about, look at how the Lord brought us out of slavery, out of a land where nothing was right. And not only just one or two, but millions of people, thousands of them came out of that land, But they didn't have to stay in the wilderness 40 years. They were grateful to a point, but when something would get out of whack, they would really start murmuring and going against, almost like they didn't appreciate what happened to them, And it had to do with working of their faith when they would see time after time, we need water, we get it. We need food, we get it. We need a way to do this and that, we getting it. When they start seeing these things happen, their faith began to get strong and strong, and then they knew that they were going to be okay. But in the beginning, when they first were rescued, they wanted to go back to where they were being abused. They did not want to be there. Because look at what they looked at. They said, we have nothing. We out here in the middle of the wilderness. We ain't got no food. We ain't got nothing to eat. We ain't got no way to live. And where they came from, they had homes and things to eat and a way to live, but they were working for other people, constantly being abused and misused, whooped with whips, and not getting paid. Sometimes they were just being downtrodden. And they said, we want to go back over there. And it's not so much as what was happening to them. The fact that what they were seeing was somebody else's lifestyle. You were being used to help other people, another person's lifestyle. You weren't being used to help yourself. And so Moses and the Lord is showing them, you have to help yourself. You have to help yourself. That's what their wilderness experience was about. Learning how to help themselves. Learning how to appreciate who they were. They were special people to God. And he wanted to see them have just as much or more as anyone else. And he don't want anyone to be harmed or hurt or misused. So they had to develop a sense of appreciation about who they were, the people they were, and about God saving them from what they had been through, and the faith in the Lord, They were murmuring against Moses and Aaron as though they were the God that was helping them. But it wasn't them. It was God himself. So a couple of times Moses said, I don't care about you murmuring against me. He said, you shouldn't be murmuring against God. He said, that's what you shouldn't be murmuring against. He said, because I'm not doing it. He said, God is the one helping us. But I'm going to take a break. And guys, when I come back on here, I'm going to give you some interesting information I have found yesterday. Seems like I'm catching a cold here. When I just read to you guys, when they were rescued, this started a festival season for the Jewish people. There are 3 festivals associated with what I read to you, but I'm going to tell you about it when I come back. Take a break.